Good morning. Namaste to each of you. Thank you for joining me this morning to honor your mind and your body and your spirit. Let's just take a moment to become present, finding a nice, comfortable seated position where your spine and back of your neck can sit nice and long and tall. Opening up your chest, opening up your diaphragm, and opening up your heart. Gently close your eyes and soften your thoughts. Soften your eyes. Soften your shoulders. And soften your heart. Observe your breath as it is, soft and gentle, breathing life into you with each inhale, and relaxation with each exhale. Feel the grace of being present, returning to that awareness again and again. You may open your eyes. For this morning's intention, you may think of a positive word or phrase to have with you on your mat and perhaps carry with you throughout the day. This morning's intention I'd like to talk about is the final Niyama. And as we know, the Niyamas are the second limb of yoga, and they're the guidelines on how to interact with yourself. The fifth Niyama is Ishvara Pranidhana, and that means surrender. And I'd like to quote from this deck of cards I use often, deck of cards called Live Your Yoga. And she had a card for surrender. And this is what it said. To many Westerners, the idea of surrender may seem strange or even negative. We have become accustomed to a sense of control, and surrendering often implies defeat or weakness. In yoga, however, it is the opposite. Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender, is the practice of surrendering to our divine potential and our true path. It's the practice of opening up to what is instead of fighting the flow of life. It's the practice of trusting our true self and having the faith and courage to be that person with all our perfect imperfections. It's the practice of seeing ourselves and others through the eyes of love, so we are free to live with purpose and joy. So for this morning's practice, I think there's a style of yoga that really suits that whole niyama of surrender, and it's the Yin Yoga. So Yin Yoga is often called the yoga of joints, of the joints, because unlike other styles of yoga, which are more active, we call those the Yang style, this is the Yin style. So like other styles of yoga, the Yang styles, the emphasis is not on the muscles, but on the deep connective tissues, the fascia, the joints that connect things. So there's 3 principles of Yin Yoga. The first one is find your edge. And the term edge is often used in yoga. I like to call it the sweet spot. It's that point between effort and relaxation. I like calling it the sweet spot. So to find that sweet spot, you let your intuition be your teacher while compassionately leaning into the pose. And this principle applies to Yin Yoga, but applies to all yoga. Let your intuition be your teacher. Listen to your body, listen to yourself. The second principle is to become as still as you can be. This is a mental and physical challenge for most of us, but yet it's the gateway to staying present. And the last principle of Yin Yoga is to surrender to time. So what we try to do in that is to transcend the time and place, just be where we are for the duration. Typically in Yin Yoga, a pose is held for 3 to 5 minutes. Since we don't do it that often, or in class that often, I'm going to have you hold it up to 2 minutes. And we have some poses that are both sides, so it'll be 2 minutes per side. Some are straightforward, so it'll be a total of 2 minutes. Sometimes, as we know, that 2 minutes can feel like 5 minutes, but we'll do for the 2 minutes. So we're going to start right away. Put my glasses down. And for this class, it would be nice if you have blocks, not needed, but there's some poses that maybe a block would make you feel more comfortable. And definitely a towel or a blanket. I find that to be really useful in this practice. I like to have it's my beach towel. You see the sunshine. But usually I have it folded this way. For the Yin class, I like to have it folded the long way. There's several poses I find that lengthwise to be very helpful. So this morning in the Yin class, we'll do some poses. Yin Yoga is fairly recent addition to the yoga styles. And they've decided to call a pose that we may know by one name in the Yang style yoga, a different name in the Yin style. It's almost the same pose. There might be a little bit of a tweak that's a little different, but for whatever reason, I'll refer to those names that I have for the Yin style. We'll also do pranayama. Pranayama is important to any style yoga. This pranayama that we'll be doing throughout this session could be either the Dirja, which is the complete breath or 3-part breath, or if you like, you can use the Ujjayi breath where you have that audible sound. It's not necessary because I think these poses are gentle enough that you don't have to monitor your breath, the sound of it, to see. Well, actually, I'm going to take that back because the first principle is to find your edge. So if using the Ujjayi breath helps you to find your edge, go for it. And And then the last thing I'm going to do in this, because that stillness can be a little daunting, even for 2 minutes, I'm going to have affirmations. And these affirmations were selected to support you during the season of spring. It's kind of like planting seeds into your soul. So let's start off with the reclined mountain pose. And if you just roll down on your mat, whichever way is comfortable for you. Whoops, I'm actually going to bring this up here. These aside for the moment. So roll down and get comfortable. And we're going to do a reclined mountain pose. And I just want to show you the difference between Yin Yoga, and sometimes there's a little confusion between Yin Yoga and restorative yoga. So let's start off with Yin Yoga in a reclined mountain pose. So we know what it's like to do a mountain pose when we're standing. Our feet are nice and firm on the floor, on the ground. Our toes are pointing to the edge of the mat. So in this case, we're going to point our toes up to the sky, flex our feet. So immediately our legs become active. And our legs are going to be nice and straight, strong, keeping them hip width apart, gentle bend in your knees. Your navel's tucked to your spine, lowering your lower back toward the mat. Your spine and the back of your neck is nice and long, so you may want to tuck your chin in a little bit to elongate the back of your neck. The shoulders are relaxed, rolled back, so you feel your shoulder blades are nice and snug in the mat, lowering your shoulders down toward the mat. And the crown of your head is reaching up toward the top of your mat. So this is mountain pose, reclined mountain pose. So if you just kind of relax and let everything go and surrender, that puts you in the Shavasana. So then again, back to mountain pose, flexing our feet, having energy, lowering our lower back by tucking our navel to our spine, actively rolling our shoulders down into the mat. That puts us back into mountain pose. So if you would, just put your right hand on your tummy and your left hand on your heart, and we'll do some complete breaths, that 3-part dirija breath. So with your hand on your tummy, you're going to take the inhale through your nose and feel that tummy inflate under your hand, and then roll that wave of breath up to your rib cage, and then roll it up to your chest. And there won't be that much movement in your chest area, but if you have your hand on your chest, you maybe feel just a slight bit of levitation there. And then for the exhale, through your nose, a deep exhale, which will lower your chest, deflate your ribs, and then deflate your stomach. So just take a few moments here and do maybe 3 to 5 deep breaths, the 3-part breath, feeling under your hand, your stomach rising, and then rolling that breath of air up to your rib cage, feeling your ribs expand a little bit, and then rolling that breath up to your chest, feeling your chest expand. And then reverse it with the exhale from your chest, deflate, your ribs deflate, and your tummy deflates. And we'll just take a few more breaths here. Now, as we go through our poses, our asanas, when you inhale, just kind of gently invite that pose into your body. And then on the exhale, send any nourishing breaths you can muster up to any of your joints that might feel a little tense, or maybe they don't even feel tense. Maybe you just want to send them, start off with one joint, let's say your ankle joints, and then your knees and your hips. Just find somewhere where you can send that nourishing exhale to. One big last breath. Alrighty. Now we're going to bring our knees to our chest. Give them a nice gentle hug, interlacing our fingers. We're going to take the interlaced fingers, wrap them around the left knee, and we'll extend our right leg all the way down to the end of the mat. And we want our body to stay active in these poses. So we're going to flex our feet, toes reaching up toward the sky. And you can either have your leg on the mat, or if you like a little bit more tension or challenge to your joints, you'll feel it around your hip joint. You can just raise your foot off the mat ever so slightly. Find that sweet spot for you. It might be a little higher, might be a little lower, but just kind of adjust and find that sweet spot that you can hold for 2 minutes. Make sure your navel's tucked to your spine, so your lower back is guiding down toward the mat. And we'll begin. And the affirmation is, the change in seasons is a reminder that I change too. The change in seasons is a reminder that I change too. Okay, and you can lower your leg if it's not already lowered. Bring that leg back to your chest and give both knees a nice hug against your chest. And we'll do that on the other side. So extend your left leg out. Feet are flexed, toes pointing to the sky. You can lower your leg all the way to the mat. Just have that active feel in your legs, or you can raise your foot just a little bit off the mat, finding that sweet spot. And we'll start now. And again, the affirmation is, the change in seasons is a reminder that I change too. Change in seasons is a reminder that I change too. Remember your breath. Maybe you're gone back to your normal breath, and maybe it's time to bring in that 3-part breath. Or just take deep inhales and deep exhales, sending that nourishing breath to your joints. You can lower your leg if it's not already lowered. Bring both knees to your chest, give them a nice hug. And send both legs down to the bottom of the mat, back to reclined mountain pose. We're going to go into reclined pigeon. So slide the sole of our right foot up along the inner part of our left leg till it reaches our knee. And this is one version. You may rest here and have your feet flexed and create some action or making your legs active. Or going into reclined pigeon a little bit more, you place your right ankle over your left leg, just above the knee, bringing the left sole of your foot down to the mat. And this is another option. You can guide your right knee toward the right part of your mat. Toes are flexed. Or the third option would be to interlace your fingers behind your left thigh, guiding your left leg toward you. Again, finding that sweet spot, having your feet flexed. And we'll start right now. The affirmation is, like a flower, I am growing at my own pace and savoring every moment. Like a flower, I am growing at my own pace and savoring every moment. And feel free if you start off in one pose, one position, and that does get a little bit too uncomfortable, to try some of the others that we went through. you can release your pose, bringing both feet back down to the mat and sending them down to the bottom of the mat, back to reclined mountain. Then we'll do that on the other side. So sliding your left foot, sole of your left foot all the way up the inner part of your right leg, coming to your knee, so your legs are in a figure four. That's one option. Or you can place your left ankle above your right knee on your right leg, bringing the right foot up, placing the foot on the mat, and guiding your left knee toward the left side of the mat. Flexing both feet, that's another option. And then the last one for reclined pigeon would be to interlace your hands behind your right thigh, guiding your right leg toward your chest till you find that sweet spot. Both feet are flexed. And we'll begin. And the affirmation again is, like a flower, I am growing at my own pace and savoring every moment. Like a flower, I am growing at my own pace and savoring every moment. Okay, you can release this pose, bringing both knees to your chest, give them a nice hug. And we're going to come up to a tabletop. So you can either move your knees off to the side and slowly make your way up, or you can tuck your hands underneath your knees and rock your way up to a seated position, and then cross over your legs into tabletop. We'll come into wide-legged child's pose. We're going to bring both knees to the edges of the mat, bringing our toes together. We're going to bring our hips down to our ankles. And this is where your props might come in handy. You can use your block and maybe put the blanket over your block, or just use your blanket. We'll stretch our arms out in front. So we're going to have our nice stretch in our shoulders. Our third eye, our forehead is on the block or on the towel, or both. And our hips are resting toward our ankles. We'll stay in this one pose for 2 minutes. So the affirmation is, I trust that my life is blossoming exactly as it should. I trust that my life is blossoming exactly as it should. You may walk your hands up, come up, so that you're still in this V shape of the wide-legged child's pose. And we're going to come into deer pose. So with our knees, excuse me, on the edges of the mat, we're going to come up onto our hands and swing our legs to the right. So then we'll come and sit back down so that our seat is on the mat. We're going to create this, twist it around so you can see this shape, kind of an M shape with our legs. So this is deer pose. And you have probably your left cheek's a little more snug on the mat than your right cheek is. So try not to tip over to the left, but stay upright, nice long spine and back of our neck. And just relax here for a few moments. Be 2 minutes on this side, and then we'll switch and have it on the other side. So the affirmation is, I let go of the past and move joyfully into the present. I let go of the past and move joyfully into the present. Ready? And we can lean forward onto our hands, come up off of our seat, and then swing our legs in the opposite direction, and then lower our glutes back down to the mat. Again, you'll probably find that your right cheek, right glutes a little bit more snug and connected to the mat. Your knees in a nice kind of M shape. So this, I was thinking when we were doing the last or the other side, I was getting a little antsy, and the word surrender popped into my head, and I just kept focusing on that, and it just made the pose so much easier. And the time, surrendering to the time, surrendering to the pose, and it just kind of made it a little bit more yin. So I encourage you to use that term, surrender, if you feel like you're starting to get a little antsy. So we'll start. And again, the affirmation is, I let go of the past and move joyfully into the present. I let go of the past and move joyfully into the present. Okay, and you can lean forward, coming onto your hands, and then bringing your legs back under you to tabletop. The next pose is in what we call in Yang Yoga, the low lunge. In Yin, it's called dragon lunge. So this is one that might be helpful to have a block and a blanket or a towel. So we're coming to tabletop, and then bring our right leg forward and extend our left foot down toward the bottom of the mat to the point where you're coming into that sweet spot. Again, using that towel or blanket to rest your knee on might be just the thing you need. It makes it a little cushier. And then bringing both hands to the inside of your right foot, so that both hands are side by side on the inside of your right foot. So it's now come into what we call lizard. And I guess a lizard is a dragon, only in miniature. So this is the lizard pose or dragon pose in Yin. And you can have your hands resting on the mat, or you can have your hands resting on the block, bringing your chest up and open a little bit more, or you can lower your arms so that your forearms are resting on the block if you want a little bit more tension. Hands on the mat, hands on the block, or forearms on the block. And the affirmation for this pose: I feel deeply connected to my own spirit. I feel deeply connected to my own spirit. Okay, you can release this pose. We'll do that on the other side. So again, if you have a towel or a blanket, move it over to the other side. Coming back into tabletop, we'll bring our left leg forward, coming into low lunge, sliding our right leg back to find that edge or sweet spot. Hands come to the right side, the inner part of your foot that's on the front. So you can have your hands on the mat or hands on the block or forearms on the block. And we'll start. I feel deeply connected to my own spirit. I feel deeply connected to my own spirit. And you can release from this pose. Coming back to tabletop. Our next pose is going to be Sphinx pose. So you could use your towel or blanket here for your elbows, or maybe underneath your rib cage. So where we are with in tabletop, you replace your elbows where your hands are, and then come down to your tummy, so your pelvis is on the mat. Tops of your feet are snug into the mat, creating a little action and activeness in your legs. Feel that energy. And then with your elbows right below your shoulders, you send your gaze up and out so that you open up your chest. And if this is uncomfortable, maybe moving your elbows a little closer to the top of the mat, sinking down, and again, maybe having your towel or blanket underneath your rib cage. We'll stay in this pose for 2 minutes. And the affirmation is, I open my heart and mind to the abundance that life presents to me. I open my heart and mind to the abundance that life presents to me. You may release this pose. Next pose we're going to do is sitting up, so make your way to a seated position, coming up to tabletop, swinging your legs out to the side, and then coming into staff pose. The staff pose is an active pose of sitting. Our sit bones are nice and snug in the mat. You can make fists and lift up your hips and then settle them back down into the mat. Really feel that comfortable connection to the mat. Our toes are pointing up toward the sky, so our legs are nice and active. And the sage pose, we're going to take our left foot, cross it over the right, placing the left foot onto the mat right beside our right knee. So it's on the outside of the right knee and on the mat. And then we can, one of two options for your hands. You can have your left hand on the inner part of your left foot and your right hand behind your back. Or with your left hand, you can just wrap it around your top of your left knee. So we're in a nice twist. We'll begin this for 2 minutes. The affirmation is, I allow my mind and body to naturally transform and evolve with the turning of the season. I allow my mind and body to naturally transform and evolve with the turning of the season. Okay, you may release that pose. And that second principle of yin, embracing that stillness for your mind and your body. I think those of you who are meditators already have mastered that probably. So on the other side, sage pose. So our feet again are flexed. One will remain flexed. We bring our right foot up and cross it over our left leg. Bring the right sole of our foot down to the mat, right alongside of our left knee. And you can bring your right hand down to the mat, right to the inside of your right foot, and your left hand behind your hips, twisting open, or you can take your right arm and wrap it around your knee. And we'll start. And the affirmation is, I allow my mind and body to naturally transform and evolve with the turning of the season. I allow my mind and body to naturally transform and evolve with the turning of the season. And you can release this pose. The next pose is reclined butterfly. And this one, I really encourage you to take your towel or blanket and use that in the long way. This pose I can actually stay in for at least 5 minutes. I love it so much. So I'm going to take my blanket in the long way, place it on top of my feet, and then reach underneath my legs and pull the corners of the towel in toward my heels so that my feet are in this little cocoon and my legs are in that, well, in Yang Yoga, it's cobble pose, cobbler's pose. But in Yin, it's called butterfly, which is appropriate for spring. And then we're going to just slowly bring ourselves down on the mat. Navel's tucked to the spine, bring our lower back down to the mat. Legs are out to each side, and if you'd like, you could support your knees with the blocks. Just placing a block underneath each leg to give that support. That's another option. I find my little cocoon supports my legs, so I don't necessarily need those blocks. So we'll start. This will be for 2 minutes. The affirmation is, I am willing to be at peace with myself and others. I am willing to be at peace with myself and others. To release from this pose, bringing your knees back together, send your feet back down to the end of the mat and bring your heels to the corners to prepare for Shavasana. So as we talked about at the beginning of the class, Shavasana is you're basically in reclined mountain pose, but it's a relaxed and, if you will, a surrendered version of mountain pose. So you're just going to let all your muscles, all your joints, all the connective tissue, everything in your body just relax and ease into the mat. Let that mat support your body. And take a few deep breaths with some big exhales and to help you to release and surrender into the mat. affirmation is, this morning I awaken as though I am seeing life for the first time. This morning I awaken as though I am seeing life for the first time. And to close out this session, you could stay in Shavasana, and I'll read a poem by Danna Faulds. Celebrate the journey. Who knows why life unfolds the way it does? Why we choose one path or another, share the way for a while or a day, then say goodbye. There is no predictability here, and less control than we might wish. But there is a quiet urging of the heart, the knowing in the soul, the wisdom that's beneath the mind, accessible if we breathe and turn inside. When the tide of change rolls in, we can resist or be at peace, struggle or release. The stuff of life may not be ours to understand. It's enough to offer love, to receive the best and worst, to embrace and say farewell. What matters most is to celebrate each moment of the journey.